My girlfriend was attacked and became pregnant. I broke up with her because she wanted to keep the baby. I know this might seem really horrible, but please hear me out. I'm a 30-year-old man in a truly dire situation. 2 months ago, my girlfriend was attacked in a park. She didn't want to report it and had a complete breakdown. She refused to talk to the police or go to the hospital. I couldn't force her, so I simply stayed by her side. She was in a really bad state, and I was there for her. I listened to her, helped her, and we went to therapy. She knew I was supporting her. She has a history of depression, and I was extremely worried. She was barely eating or sleeping, often waking up in the middle of the night. Whenever she cried or screamed, I was right there, listening and helping with whatever she needed. Sometimes, she would just stare at the walls for hours, lost in her thoughts. We went to therapy together, trying to find a way through this mess. I wanted her to know that I was there for her, no matter what. Seeing her in such a state really scared me. I tried to be strong for her, but there were times when I felt completely overwhelmed. Last week, we found out she was pregnant. The moment we saw the test results, it was as if the world stopped. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and shock. I had been out of the country for 2 months before the attack, and I came back early to take care of her. The baby is definitely not mine. I'm 100% certain it's the attacker's. We had hoped it was just a false alarm, but the tests confirmed the pregnancy. The realization hit her hard, and she broke down again. The pregnancy was a constant reminder of that terrible night, tearing her apart. She felt trapped, and I didn't know how to help her escape this nightmare. So, we had a talk, one of the most difficult conversations we've ever had. She's a devout Catholic, and her faith means everything to her. Initially, it seemed like having an abortion was the only way for her to start healing and move forward. But after she talked to her mother, everything changed. Her mother told her that under no circumstances should she have an abortion, that it would be a sin. After this conversation, she decided to keep the baby, saying it wasn't the baby's fault. She believes that every life is sacred, regardless of the circumstances. I could see the turmoil in her eyes, torn between her faith and the trauma she'd been through. It was like watching her heart break all over again. I told her straightforwardly that I would not help raise the baby of the man who attacked her. The words were harsh, but I needed her to understand my position. She cried and begged me not to leave her. Her pleas were heartbreaking, and I hated seeing her in pain, but I couldn't back down. I calmed down and told her that she had a choice, either keep the baby and I leave, or have an abortion and I stay. I couldn't see myself raising a child who would constantly remind her, and me, of the worst thing that had ever happened to her. It felt like an impossible situation, but I needed her to understand that I couldn't compromise. The decision was hers, but I had to be honest about what I could and couldn't handle. Since I couldn't bring myself to do either of those things, I told her we were done. Was I wrong? Update: I'm going to post this update first because there have been some changes since I last posted. Then I'll respond to some general points from the last thread and the numerous private messages I received. Yesterday, I got a call from my girlfriend. She was crying and begging me to listen to her. I told her that I still cared about her and that I would listen to what she had to say. She told me that a few days after I told her we were done, she called her mother to talk about it. She needed someone to confide in and thought her mother would understand. Apparently, before our conversation, she had pretty much decided to have an abortion. She felt it was the best way to heal and move on. But when she talked to her mother, everything changed. Her mother told her that under no circumstances should she have an abortion, that it would be a grave sin and that she would regret it for the rest of her life. Her mother even said that I had manipulated her into having the abortion, making me seem like the villain in all of this. Her mother went on to say that if she aborted the baby, she would no longer consider her daughter as her own. These words cut deep, and she felt trapped, torn between her mother's harsh judgment and her own trauma. The weight of her mother's disapproval was too much for her to bear, leaving her feeling isolated and overwhelmed after I left. My girlfriend called her mother again to talk about what had happened, hoping to make sense of it all and that her mother would offer some comfort. My girlfriend said that she desperately wanted to abort the baby, explaining that the pregnancy was a constant reminder of the attack. But her mother was adamant. She said again that if she went through with the abortion, it would be the last time they would ever speak, making it clear that the decision would sever their relationship forever. My girlfriend broke down on the phone, sobbing uncontrollably. She felt more alone than ever. Her mother kept pressing her, asking over and over what she was going to do, as if she was being forced to choose between her sanity and her family. The conversation ended when my girlfriend, choking on her tears, said that she didn't know what to do. This ultimatum left her completely devastated and lost. Then she started texting, her hands shaking. As she typed, the weight of the decision bore down on her. Finally, she sent a message to her mom saying that she was going to have an abortion. She hoped that maybe, just maybe, her mom would understand and offer some kind of support or at least a compassionate response. But the response was swift and brutal. She was blocked, instantly cut off without another word. The person she had always turned to in times of need had shut her out completely. Then my girlfriend called me and told me that she was going to have an abortion in 3 weeks. We discussed this, and we agreed that I had not manipulated her in any way. We talked about everything that had happened, from the assault to the pressure from her mother. She appreciated that I had been firm and recognized that my stance had helped her see things more clearly. She admitted that if I hadn't been clear about my boundaries, she might have ended up keeping the baby, a constant reminder of the worst time in her life, her words, not mine. She also said that she was grateful that I had been there to support her through this agonizing decision, acknowledging that it was the right choice for both of us, despite how difficult it had been. She went on to say that I was the best thing that had ever happened to her and that she knew that even though she no longer had her mother's support, if she had me, she could get through it. At that point, I broke down. I love her so much, and it was unbearable to see her in so much pain. In truth, I probably would have gone back to her and raised the baby with her, even though I knew it would be hard. I couldn't stand the thought of losing her. I originally posted in the thread to get some support rather than to determine if I had made the right decision. I needed to hear from others to get some validation, to know that I wasn't a monster for making such an ultimatum. The outpouring of support and different perspectives from others helped me realize that standing my ground was necessary for both of us. It was a way to protect our future and move forward from the trauma. I'm so relieved that things worked out the way they did. Now, to respond to some of your points from the last thread. First, no, my girlfriend did not cheat on me. I'm almost certain of this, not just because she has a kind and gentle nature, but also because we know each other's schedules very well, and we often talk to friends who can confirm our whereabouts. After she came home, she was assaulted, not engaged in some kind of rough sex, as some of you crudely put it. Second, I don't care if you think abortion is a sin. If you're so sanctimonious about it, come and raise the baby, give us money to raise the baby, or hire someone to take care of my girlfriend's every need while she's pregnant. If you talk the talk, then walk the walk. Third, my girlfriend was initially set on having the baby, likely influenced by her mother. Thanks to all the people who told me I did the right thing. I'm really glad it turned out the way it did. Fourth, to the people who texted me calling me a monstrous baby killer, I fail to see how your views are relevant to this topic. I was also hoping to post here again after the abortion, which is still scheduled for 2 weeks from now. But I thought I should provide an update on some recent events. On Saturday, I answered my door and found myself face to face with 2 police officers. My heart sank immediately. They asked me if I was who I claimed to be, and I replied that I was. I couldn't help but feel a surge of anxiety, wondering what this was all about. Then they said they were looking for my girlfriend. So, I called her, my voice shaking a little. She looked confused and scared. The policeman said he needed to talk to her. My girlfriend's face turned pale, and I could see the fear in her eyes. I tried to stay calm for her sake, but I could feel my own anxiety rising. I stepped back to let the officers in, hoping that whatever this was about wouldn't make things worse for her. The officers then split up. One took my girlfriend into the living room, and the other took me to my bedroom. The officer who was with me started asking me questions. He wanted to know how long my girlfriend had been here, if she had been in contact with anyone else, and if she had left the house. All of his questions seemed endless, each one more invasive than the last. I answered them all, trying to remain calm despite my growing frustration. I could sense the suspicion in his tone, and it made me uncomfortable. After answering a few more questions, I finally asked what this was all about. The officer just said that they had received a report to check on my girlfriend. My heart raced as I wondered who could have made such a report and why. When I pressed further and asked who made the report, the officer said he couldn't say. His answer made me feel even more anxious and confused. It felt like we were being investigated for something we had no control over. After a while, the other officer was finished, and they both left. As soon as the door closed behind them, my girlfriend burst into tears. She told me that she had been asked directly if she was in danger and if I had hurt her. The officers even asked if she was being held against her will. She said no to everything, of course, but the questions had shaken her. She felt violated and frightened. Then she revealed that the police had received a call from her mother, claiming that she was in danger and that I had been abusive to her. The accusation hit me like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe her own mother would go that far. It felt like a betrayal, and the fact that she was trying to use the police to drive a wedge between us was infuriating. My girlfriend was devastated, caught between her mother and the reality of our situation. I was furious the moment she told me what her mother had done. I couldn't believe the nerve of her mother to accuse me of something so despicable and to use the police to interfere in our lives. I immediately said that I would press charges against her, though I wasn't sure exactly what for, probably harassment. I wanted to hold her accountable. I couldn't just stand by and watch this insanity, let her get away with trying to destroy us like this. My girlfriend looked at me with wide, tear-filled eyes, clearly torn between wanting to protect her mother and understanding my anger. The betrayal hurt deeply, and I had to do something, anything, to fight back against the injustice of it all. But my girlfriend begged me not to, saying it would all just blow over and that she just needed time to calm down. What the hell? She sent the police to my house? Trying to get me arrested? How could that be reasonable? I just couldn't believe it. The sheer audacity of her actions left me reeling. If I were arrested, I could lose my job, my career, my livelihood. Everything I'd worked so hard for could be destroyed because of her baseless accusations. What on earth was she thinking? Was she really trying to ruin my life and our relationship in one fell swoop? The implications were terrifying, and the fact that someone so close to me could be so ruthless and malicious was beyond comprehension. The weight of it all bore down on me, and I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a precipice. I told my girlfriend that if her mother did something like this again, I would definitely press charges. My girlfriend decided to talk to her mother on Sunday, to ask her not to do anything like that again. They talked for about 2 minutes, and then I heard sobbing. I immediately rushed into the room and saw my girlfriend crying, still holding the phone to her ear. I gently took the phone out of her hand and held it for a while. Then I heard a hello from the phone. I picked it up and said, "You're a disgrace of a mother," and hung up. Then I held my girlfriend for what felt like an hour before we started talking. Apparently, the mother had told my girlfriend that if she went through with the abortion, she would never see her brother, or her late father in heaven. Her father, who had died as a drunk and violent alcoholic who used to beat my girlfriend. But hey, according to her mother, he repented of his sins in death. I told my girlfriend that if she was going to hell, she should save me a seat, and we'd be together. I love her, you know. Smile. What do you think? Is there anything I should do about her mother? No doubt my words to her will elicit some reaction. Update 3. I just wanted to update everyone on this whole saga. This will be my final update. A few days ago, the abortion was carried out. A few weeks before that, my girlfriend went to a counselor and talked to a nurse about why she wanted an abortion. She was also tested for all sexually transmitted infections. After getting the all clear, she decided to go ahead with the abortion. A few days ago, she had a successful surgical abortion. As she explained, this method involves using a vacuum to suction out the pregnancy. She said it was pretty painless, and she was able to go home after a few hours. When she came home, she cried and cried. It was as if the floodgates had opened, and all the pain and relief came pouring out at once. I held her tightly, feeling the weight of her emotions in every part of her body. She said she felt like a huge weight had been lifted, and for the first time in months, I saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. She could finally look forward to moving on with her life. The burden of the pregnancy, that constant reminder of the attack, was finally gone. She told me how she felt like she could breathe again, how the shadows of that terrible night were beginning to recede. It was the first step towards healing. Even though we knew there was a long road ahead, this moment felt like a turning point. We took a week off from work to give ourselves some time to process everything and just be together. Yesterday, we went camping. Of course, it rained, that's just our luck. But even the rain couldn't dampen our spirits. We huddled together in the tent, listening to the sound of raindrops pattering against the fabric. It felt cozy and safe, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past few months. In the tent, she opened up about how difficult life had been at times. She talked about her struggles, the pain, and the times when she felt like she couldn't go on. But she also shared how she was really glad that things turned out the way they did. In spite of everything, she felt a sense of relief and newfound strength. She said that even though things were still tough, she probably came out the other side stronger than before. Her resilience amazed me, and I couldn't help but feel hopeful for the future. We knew there would be challenges ahead, but in that moment, huddled together in our tent, it felt like we could face anything as long as we were together. She's amazing, seriously. Now, about her mom, my girlfriend got a call from her mom asking if she'd gone through with the abortion. My girlfriend and I had an agreement that if her mom called, we'd either hang up or she'd give the phone to me. We decided to do this to protect her from any further emotional manipulation. In this case, my girlfriend answered the call out of habit and didn't know what to say. When she heard her mother's voice, she froze and looked at me with wide eyes. Panic was written all over her face, and she handed me the phone without saying a word. I took the phone and stood up. Her mother immediately launched into a tirade, demanding to know if the abortion had been performed. I told her that the abortion had gone perfectly. As soon as I said those words, she unleashed a torrent of curses at me, her voice dripping with venom. I listened for about a minute, letting her get it all out. A slight smile played on my lips at the absurdity of it all. When she finally paused for breath, I calmly said, "How very Jesus of you," and hung up. My girlfriend didn't find it funny, but that was that. The silence that followed was heavy, but it felt like a small victory. My girlfriend gave me a look of gratitude, and relief washed over her face. We knew her mother wouldn't take the news well, but standing up to her felt like we were regaining some of our own strength, a bit of our own power. To everyone in your life, even if you're going to insult me via private message, just be warned. I have killed a baby before. What do you think of this story? Please leave a comment below to let me know.